The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional therapy or mental health treatment. While we are therapists, we are not your therapists. If you're struggling, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional.
This is Heavy Enough. We're your hosts. I'm Riley.
And I'm Alyssa.
Sisters with therapy degrees. So expect a whole lot of insight, a little tough love, and real stories from our lives. Whether you're driving in the car, out on a walk, or just lying in your bed, get ready because we're diving in. We'll come up for air at the end.
I want to kind of define trauma. I think we talk about trauma and we use the word trauma for things that aren't always trauma,
Sure.
or we don't say things are trauma when they are. So to just define what trauma is, I want to normalize trauma, and I want to also give direction to listeners when you kind of, maybe you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, there are some things I haven't fully processed, and to kind of give some direction into what to do and where to go and how to help work through some of those things. So,
Sure.
So, and I think too, we've talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, just specifically with Gabor Mate, we've referenced him. Yes. Here we go. We're going to just start singing through. Actually, what that makes me think of is on New Girl, she sings random things. What was that line?
I love her. New Girl is the best show ever, I think.
It's so funny. It makes me think of this one episode when the parents are fighting and it's her going back to her child and she's like, Mommy's all right, Daddy's all right, you're right, just a little weird. And she's dancing around in the circle. Anyways,
That's how she's processing her.
Yeah, that's how she's working through her trauma. So,
which is actually valid. Stimulating your vagus nerve by singing is research backed.
Totally. It is. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yeah, so there's an example.
Okay. A man, Gabor.
Yes. Do you want to give us our Gabor Mate quote?
I love this man because he talks about trauma in a way that what you said earlier. A lot of people talk about trauma and they're so open to, oh, this was traumatic. Oh, I'm triggered. And it's not necessarily trauma. Yeah. And then people who do experience trauma, they don't talk about it like that. Mm-hmm. So it's almost a little backwards.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is spoken for everyone.
Right.
But it's funny how really important, impactful things that have happened to us, we push down and ignore it. Mm-hmm. But then the grocery store clerk rolled his eyes and we're like, oh, triggered. Yeah, that was so traumatizing. Mm-hmm. I can never go back.
True.
So it's right. I mean, putting a little skewed light, comedy light, which I think is fine, but it's not coming from the right place. Yeah. Anyways, Gabor Mate, he said, trauma is not what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you. And so I really like that because now I think there's a lot of research that trauma is subjective. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the thing that happened to you was traumatic. It's how you experienced it or how you processed it.
Right.
And we'll talk about the many factors as to why you experienced something different than another person, mm-hmm. or why something may have been traumatic for you that was not traumatic for a sibling, for a friend, or someone, who went through a similar experience, for example.
Right.
So it really is bringing light to the body's response and reaction to things, mm-hmm. not just the logical, oh, I know that was dangerous and bad that happened to me, and so that was traumatic.
Right. Yeah. And I think to give it to define it, it's an experience or repeated experience that overwhelms a person's nervous system, mm-hmm. leaving them feeling unsafe, powerless, disconnected, or stuck. And so when we talk about that, I think it's important we talk about the nervous system too, because we use that a lot, and I think it's important to know what that is. But it's essentially your what?
I just can't stop thinking about New Girl.
Oh, what?
Oh, my song.
I keep singing it. You're singing it? Stuck in your head? We're going to have to like put that in somewhere. Yeah, just like dancing around as the parents are fighting.
When you're feeling like re-traumatized, you just start, Mama's all right.
Daddy's all right. Oh,
anyways, I'm so sorry. Okay.
I'm like, what did I say? Why are you making fun of me? Oh my God.
The nervous system.
Okay, let's define it. So your nervous system is your body's internal communication and safety system. Mm-hmm. So your nervous system is what's scanning your environment.
Yeah.
To know, am I safe right now?
Yeah.
So when you have a history of trauma, whether it's a one event or repeated events, your body's communicated, or what's communicated to your body is, I'm not safe, or am I safe? And so if you haven't fully processed these events, your nervous system's going to be heightened in scanning to see, am I safe? So it's protecting you.
For sure.
And so this is your environment, your relationships, even your own thoughts of like, am I okay? Am I safe? Can I rest here?
Essentially, it's the nervous system is your body's radar of scanning for safety, like you said.
Right.
And so if you have been traumatized in any form in the past, your radar is functioning from not like a baseline safety space. Mm-hmm. It's functioning from, okay, when is danger going to arise? Or a little leaf blowing by, like, boo, 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 boo. Like that gets just, magnified so much more.
Yeah. So something that may be like, I don't know, I've used this with clients before where I'm like, yeah, in a healthy, regulated nervous system, so meaning you're at baseline safety, this comment from, let's say, the grocery clerk might be like a 3 or 4 to like a healthy nervous system. But if you're already living and navigating life at like an 8 because you're just so heightened, that comment sends you to a 10 and then you're triggered, or it sends you to a 12 and you're overreacting. And this is where you'll see people really unregulated and overreacting, or getting like triggered really genuinely triggered at like something that may be more minor.
Right.
And so if you notice yourself quote unquote overreacting, sometimes you have to think through like, okay, is this actually this situation, or is this something else that is kind of like, getting triggered, and not to overuse that word, but like, is it a normal 4 and then you're feeling it as at an 8, and like why is that happening?
Yeah. And I think too, from a dysregulated nervous system, it's you get stuck at like that 12, and it's really hard to come back down to baseline. Whereas in life, I mean, stress can be very good for us too.
Totally.
But when we experience some stress and some like re-traumatizing stress, then not only do we blow up to a 12, but we get stuck there and unable to kind of use any sort of like, it doesn't even have to be therapeutic techniques, but like regulating techniques, and even like automatic regulating techniques, just like breathing or just walking or whatever it is, to bring us back down to baseline. We just get stuck.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, in thinking about specifically like childhood trauma, and how the research shows that childhood trauma, if you've experienced that, and there's like 1,000,001 ways that could look, and you're walking the world with this heightened nervous system, the research shows it leads to adults with anxiety, depression, autoimmune diseases, because it's such a physical manifestation in your body. Substance abuse, chronic illness, heart disease, like it goes on and on. And so
chronic pain too.
Chronic pain, because it's all in your body.
Yeah, I find this like as a sex therapist, I do work with a lot of like sexual trauma, and a lot of it, unfortunately, it's in the childhood. And so it manifests its way into certain sexual dysfunctions. Not all the time, but I mean, most sexual dysfunctions are psychological. And so if we think about where those manifest and where those kind of came from, there is research that most people with chronic pain have some form of like PTSD or traumatic experience in their childhood.
Right.
And sometimes it comes out as an adult because if it happened in childhood, you don't have like the cognitive ability or even the language to know what's happening or process that.
Right.
And so it gets stuck in your body. And when things are trapped, it'll find a way out, whether that's anxiety, and a lot of the times chronic pain.
Yeah. And if it doesn't find a way out, you're just wanting to numb it. You're like, how do I avoid feeling so bad?
Yeah.
And it makes sense. And you're self-medicating or doing something to make yourself feel better.
With the numbing too, and with the like nervous system for like the polyvagal theory. So the vagus nerve runs essentially almost the entire length of the body. And I kind of see it as like the highway system of all the nerves. Like you have this one main highway that is connected to all of these systems. And so when things happen to you, that highway gets congested.
Yeah.
And there's sirens going off. There might be crashes on the highway. Then there's fires and you can't get off and tend to your gut issues on, this exit.
That's such a good analogy.
So you have to work on decongesting that highway. And so the polyvagal theory talks about like 3 different states. The highest state being the dorsal vagal theory. Yeah, dorsal vagal state, which is the numbness and the complete like dissociation.
Yeah, and like shut down. Like your body's just like overwhelmed, shut down.
Yeah.
I'm not here anymore.
Yeah. It just gets overloaded. Same, and another analogy is like, okay, when your phone has so many apps running at the same time, your battery drains way faster, and then it ends up just like either glitching out or dying.
Yep.
So it's essentially what is happening with that overloaded, dysregulated nervous system, unable to ease the congestion of the vagus highway.
Dang, that's a great analogy. I've not heard that described that way.
Thanks.
Oh.
Sort of made it up on the fly, but
I like it. That's great.
That's what I feel like in my therapy practice, I use a lot of analogies because like a lot of things can be like so clinical that it takes away like the humanness from it.
Totally.
Like
and
you're not a science experience. Yeah.
Okay, can we go into big T and little T trauma? Because like we're talking about trauma, but it's like what is it? How does it happen? What's considered trauma? What's not?
Yeah.
So let's start with big T trauma. So these are the things that, I remember you were saying like 9/11.
Sure.
Right? Like things that we all can kind of, when we think about trauma, what is it? Going to war.
Yeah. Combat. That's why PTSD totally was in the DSM.
Yeah. So, and I think these are the ones, obviously they're legitimate. But these are the ones that I think as a society, we all can agree it's trauma and we all sometimes minimize our own experiences because like, well, it's not that. Like I didn't experience that. So like
the
mine
comparison is huge. Bad. Yeah.
So let's see what else. Severe accidents, medical trauma, a sudden loss, domestic violence. So like the big ones that we all see. So those are considered big T's. Little T trauma is going to be things like emotional neglect. So it's not necessarily something that happened to you, but it's something that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's something where maybe you needed comfort or compassion or someone to talk to and there's no one there and you're alone.
There's no physical scars. So if people can't see the scars on you, it's not good enough.
It didn't happen. Yeah. And we do it to ourselves too. It's like, well, nothing happened to me. But
on the outside.
Yeah. And also nothing happened to you. You needed something to happen. You needed someone to step in. You needed someone to be able to talk about that thing and you had no one. So that really is, I think emotional neglect is a huge one that I work with and am validating people a lot of, maybe nothing happened, but it needed to. And that is still considered traumatic because you're alone. And when your nervous system, especially as a kid, doesn't have the regulator, AKA parent or any caregiver, you cannot process your emotions and you can't get the co-regulation you need to have those things. If we're talking about your highway, it's stuck. Sure. You don't have a person to help you work through that. So
no ambulance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chronic criticism. So if you had either like a critical parent, a critical teacher, a bully. Parentification is considered a little T trauma. So if you were sometimes
had to parent your parents.
parent your parents, or even a lot of times the older siblings in the family get kind of treated like an adult. So they get put on like a lot of responsibility to be a caretaker for younger siblings. That in itself, caring for younger siblings, maybe not traumatic, but the parentification. So the being told
the
adult
chronic
things.
stress to be able to handle adult responsibilities as a child without the wisdom or the knowledge
or resources to be an adult. So and I think it's important to talk about the little T traumas because, like I said, those are the ones that I think, I don't want to say they're more common, but I think we all have those.
I would say they're more common. Yeah. Unfortunately, unfortunately, builds character. But like you can't go throughout this life without trauma. I believe that from the standpoint of being a therapist and talking about little T trauma, and how a lot of the times we weren't given like the resources, the knowledge, the love to build up that resiliency to be able to take on world's heavy shit, to be honest. And so when we don't have that resiliency built up, little T's can be very impactful for us. And then we feel shame over it because, well, that was a little thing the grocery store clerk rolled his eyes at you, like, what are you doing? And then it's not talked about at all because it's so shamed because you weren't a victim in 9/11 or you didn't have this huge car crash where you lost a leg. Like it wasn't, again, physical scars.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. I think too, like when we think about how it looks, so, I mean, we kind of talk about like what big T, little T trauma, like what they are, and then how it looks. So like you grow up, or even in adulthood, like how does trauma manifest and like what does it look like? So I kind of want to talk through emotional symptoms, relational symptoms, and physical symptoms. So like if you're listening to this and you're hearing like, oh, I kind of have that, or I'm doing that, like be curious, like, is this coming from something that is traumatic or something that like happened in my childhood or even as an adult? So emotional signs, things like anxiety, we talked about numbness, your body just being like overloaded, being irritable, like everything's just like bugging you, like everyone's bugging you, you're like hate life, hate the world, hate people, everything's just like you're overstimulated.
Can I add in like a little story here? Because I've talked about my dad on this podcast before, but growing up with like a pathological liar has always like made me feel just so insane. And I remember my mom always telling me, okay, if something doesn't make sense, it's probably not you. So it's like the way that the manipulation and lying kind of just like filled my soul a bit, like feeling crazy. Now fast forward, if someone like, it doesn't even have to be like a flat out lie, but if something doesn't make sense because of how they communicated it, not necessarily if they were lying, I like completely shut them out. Like it activates something in me so strong. So I can say that is probably a little T trauma of something. I mean, I don't want to even say that's minor because that really like messed with my head when I was little. But so irritable, like right off the bat. It's like, okay, calm down. Like, why are you so angry? Like why are you so mad?
Well, that's like a perfect example of like something that maybe, it is. And I want to validate the like, it doesn't mean it's nothing. Like it might still be like an annoying situation or someone didn't communicate right or something doesn't make sense. Like, but it would maybe be like a 4 or 5 of like confusion. But you go to like a 12 because it's like so triggering to you that you're like, no, like this is all bad. So I think that's another piece of like, even when I don't even like that it's called little T because I know it like minimizes it.
It does minimize it.
And I'm like,
a little bit.
No, it's still like, I like that there's different categories, but it's like, no, it's still traumatic to your nervous system in your body.
For sure.
So it doesn't mean it's
it's
smaller.
subjective. It's just purely subjective.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big deal to you.
Right.
It doesn't actually, I don't give a shit if it's a big deal to you.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal to me, and that's enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a big deal to how you're like functioning in the world. Like your whole body is like,
especially in relationships. Like it really affected how I went about relationships, because if something didn't make sense, done. Done.
Yeah.
And that probably, took a lot of fun experiences away from me. And so over time, I have worked on it and built up the resiliency to not just assume everyone is lying and bad.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's a good example for relational too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so if you think physical, relational, and actually all of it, it's like a good example for all of the categories, because it represents your like shut out is the emotional part.
Yeah.
Relational, I guess that's kind of all relational, but anyways, relational signs.
I see what you're saying.
Okay. So more relationship signs. Anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, shutting down during conflict, people pleasing, fear of abandonment, choosing emotionally unavailable people. So just how you go about the world relationally can be a sign of trauma. Doesn't mean it always is, but be curious of like, where's this coming from? And then the physical signs. So this is something that I feel like I have a lot of experience, but also like when I think about what I've been through in terms of my nervous system, cancer, anxiety, like I really see it kind of all connecting. Yeah. And I'm like, dang, that's crazy. Like I remember last year, when I went into acupuncture for the first time, and it was in my consultation, and he was asking me about my body and things that were going on. And so I was like, well, they just found like 4 tumors in my body. I'm diagnosed with my autoimmune disease again. So I have body weakness. I'm like going through all my physical symptoms. Yeah. And then he went into like the emotional stuff, and he's like, okay, so like what's gone on in the last couple of years? I'm like, well, there's been like a death in the family. I've had relationship stress, and like kind of didn't give him like all the details, but basically it was just like giving him like a brief, like, okay, in the last couple of years, this is like what the stress has been emotionally in my life. And he goes, okay. And so where were like the tumors in your body? Like, where are they? And I said, in my lung and in my liver. And he goes, oh, so grief and anger. Because
wild.
In like Chinese medicine, like your body like holds emotions and stores them in different areas. And so I was like, yeah, grief and anger. Like, and that wasn't me telling him any real details. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess. And so over the course of the last few years, it's been healing my physical body, getting the tumors removed, like healing that, but then also looking at like grief and anger and like, healing the emotional how do I body. Process it? Because it was stuck, like actually stuck, if we're using your highway analogy, and like came to a point in these places.
Like now it's like a 10-car pileup.
Totally. It's like now we have to actually do physical surgery to get it out. And did that start emotionally? That's a crazy thing to think about.
I mean, I full on believe that. And you actually made me realize that about myself too, when we were talking about like where my tumor was for cancer, because it was in my throat, and talking about how like in my life with certain people, I just didn't feel like I had a voice, and I had to just swallow it and keep it in and not tell my story, because no one either would believe me or think it's like, oh, like brush it off, like, oh, that is not a big deal. And so the tumor was manifesting in like my throat, which is so interesting, because that was about the time where like I didn't have any communication with this person. And so also I went to an energy healer, and this was like years after the cancer, it was in remission. And he was like I felt so hot on my throat. He's like, okay, you have a lot of stuff right here still. And I still had a relationship with
this. This was after your surgery?
Oh, yeah. Okay. This was like just like 5 years ago or something that I had this like energy healer work on my throat.
That's so crazy.
So yeah, I think when something has happened in your life, if you just push it down, or you go into essentially like dissociation and not even recognize it because you're just cognitively not there, it's going to get out somewhere.
Totally.
And most of the times it's physical.
Yeah.
And then people pay attention to it when it's physical.
Then it's a problem.
Right.
And then we're praying for you. And then we're all coming visiting you and it's validating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when I first had like thought about this like connection, like your emotional experience and your physical body. And it felt very like spiritual woo-woo, like weird because Western medicine, we really, and just in our world, like we really separate it. Like we separate
mind, body,
your mind and your body and your emotions and your physical symptom. Like it's just like your health. It's just your blood work and not like putting them together because we're so connected. We're one being. And it's like, I don't know. I could go on forever about that.
It's hard for me, to like understand why it's so separated, because even in medicine, like scientists talk about epigenetics.
Yeah.
And certain mental disorders, mental illness, if you want to call it that, like come out when environmental factors like play a role, or when like relationships play a role. Like something from our world brings that deep gene in us or deep DNA in us out, where it could have just been dormant forever if we didn't deal with like a really chronic stress or traumatic event in our life. And so you could have, for example, like depression runs in my family. That could be like a dormant gene or dormant, I don't even know the science behind it. I'm not a scientist, but a dormant thing in your body. But until your environment brings it out of you, you could go this whole life without experiencing like a diagnosable depression.
Right. Yeah.
So I know that's common too with like personality disorders. It's epigenetics, like your environment brings it out. Yeah. Like you have to somewhat have the gene, but that doesn't mean you're going to have it.
Right.
But then if you were abused as a child, chances are it might come out.
Yep.
So like the medical community talks about epigenetics so often, but then we also separate the mind body.
Yeah, it's both.
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. But.
Okay, let's talk more about body symptoms since we're talking about our bodies.
Yeah.
So these things can look like, I mean, as simple as like clenching your jaw, like grinding your teeth. It's just like, how is your body manifesting emotions? Like, how does it come out emotionally, or not emotionally, physically? Migraines. I had migraines my whole childhood.
Really?
My whole childhood. And up until college. And I remember I stopped having them when I started going to therapy. They were like going away. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah. And even to this day, if I have a migraine, like this last weekend, I had a horrible migraine, like one of those that you need the lights off. Like I felt nauseous. I took like multiple Excedrin. I'm like, why am I still like, what is this? And I mean, I could analyze like, okay, these certain changes, this thing happened. Like I could kind of see like what the different emotional things going on. And it wasn't until I cried that it went away.
How wild.
And I was like, and I know this, like I do this, I know this, like, and I did some things that I knew to do. Like I went on, or what did I do? I did my like yoga for migraines. I did some like, just like reflecting on like, what am I stressed about, and try to like acknowledge it that way. But it's still hard for me to sit and just cry, like sit and like feel it, I think. Not sit and cry, but just like feel what it all was. Yeah. And like, it's like, as my tears are coming, this is relieving.
Interesting.
And I'm just like, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
Wow.
So
I like that. Because even something that like, you don't need to know like this traumatic event that happened to you. Your body was just maybe dysregulated and hurting, and you needed to let something out.
And exactly. You might not even need to know why. Right. And I'm usually so like, I want to know about it and I want to understand. Sometimes you just need to have a breakdown and you're like, okay, I feel better. Like
totally
punching a wall.
I was gonna say sometimes you just need to punch a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was like, I don't know. That was like a recent example. I'm like, wow.
I like that example because I feel like it's just very everyday normal.
Yeah.
And it just shows how pent up the body can be sometimes because we're shoving things down in this rat race. We have no time to feel.
Yeah.
And so, but letting 5 minutes max just to feel something for a second, and then you can move on with your day. And it doesn't have to be this big ordeal.
Yeah.
You felt safe enough to just do that and move on, which also I think is another kind of little segue. But oftentimes in therapy, like we'll get clients to a safe place where they feel okay and they feel safe enough. And it's at that point, then all of it starts to bubble up. And so it's like, okay, therapy now is really hard because the healthier you are, the safer you feel in your body, the more shit comes up.
Yeah.
Because you're allowing it to. And also I feel like it's your body's way of trusting itself to be able to handle it and regulate it and move on.
Yeah. And I think it's important too. That's like such a good point. Like, I know I'll have clients who will get to that point where it's like, okay, we're actually like safe enough to now feel it. And then therapy then is every week for a time is a lot of tears or a lot of anger or a lot of like in their week, they're like really triggered because it's so raw. And I think some people quit at that point because they're like, this is actually making me feel worse.
Right.
And I think it's important to have that analogy of the backed up, what did you say? Backed up
the highway?
Thank you. Because if you think about it, if it's backed up, you're going to see all the congestion. You're going to see all the car accident, and it does feel worse for a little bit, but eventually you have that cleared out. Like therapy, going into therapy for trauma work is intense, but it's like surgery. It hurts, it's painful, but then it's removed and you are more free.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part where if you can know that going into it, like this is going to be painful and kind of scary and like raw, but at the end of it, this isn't forever. Like you don't have to live in that forever. Like there is an end to it and it clears the pathway so you can live feeling safe in your body. Like I think it's just an important thing to know because so many people go into therapy not knowing what to expect. And so when it feels worse, you're like, what am I doing? Why am I paying for this? I feel I'm crying all the time now. I feel like I don't want to talk about this stuff. Like,
I have to go home and take a nap. That's always like a part of my intake consent process. Is saying this is going to get worse before it gets better. Like, all right, you want to try it? You know, to not have this expectation of you're taking the first step towards like the light, which essentially you are, but you are going to trud through mud before you get to see any form of light.
Totally. And I really use my physical body as something to like use as an analogy. And I don't always tell clients this specifically, but I'll say like, if you have a tumor in your body, like for a physical ailment, like, hey, for example, you have cancer here, you have a tumor, you might be living your life totally fine and not knowing. And maybe you just feel like tired or something. And then like, oh, you have a tumor. It's like, it's going to get worse before it gets better. You're going to have to do chemo. You're going to throw up. You're going to have to get your chest cut open, like whatever it is. And physically we're willing to do that, but emotionally we aren't because it's just like, well, no one could see it. And so, I feel like that's just like something I'll bring into where I'm like, the analogies are so powerful because we don't see our emotional highway backed up.
Right.
So
working like in a biopsychosocial model, especially within sex therapy, I always say, go to your doctor first. Get everything checked out, blood work, whatever it is. And then let's work on it because you don't also want to excuse maybe something that can be like very dangerous happening. However, bias standpoint, I just have such a hard time believing it's only like a physical concern and there was no psychological component adding to that or the reason of it growing or manifesting in the first place. But I mean, it is so important to have a team and a team of doctors, therapists, other modality, other
like a holistic
just
approach.
Like a holistic approach to it. Yeah. Like I love that you went to your acupuncturist and he was asking you about what was happening in your life.
Yeah.
That's just like a whole body way of dealing with a human.
Yeah. One of the things that clients also say a lot is like, I've been in therapy like 20 years for this, or I've been talking about this. I've been in therapy and I've been talking about this for 7 years and I still, I understand it. I know why I'm triggered. I know what happened to me. I told this story 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
Like therapy doesn't help.
Right.
And I've heard that a lot.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I think you can talk your way out of anything and you can make excuses logically for anything, but it's really hard to work on like the deep emotional brain. Well, I just don't think like you can heal through words when something's so deep in the brain. And so I think you have to feel your way out of it. Yeah. You can't talk your way out of it. Now, I love talk therapy because I think that there's something very powerful about someone witnessing your pain, someone validating your pain, and forming a very healthy and strong and secure therapeutic relationship. I think a lot of healing that people do is not individually. It's with a regulated person. So I think talk therapy is so beneficial for that. Also, just the psychoeducation and giving the language to the story can be very powerful. Now, I do believe people can be in therapy for 20 years and not actually look at what's going on. They can talk their way around it. But if you don't feel through it, it's going to be very difficult. And so I think that's where maybe we can get into like a more holistic way of dealing with trauma is talk therapy absolutely has its place and it's beautiful for that. And let's also work on like somatic modalities to address the trauma as well and address the emotional story behind it.
So I'm going to just keep going off your analogy. So if we're going to talk about this congested highway, talk therapy is talking about the congested highway. Talk therapy is talking about how it got congested. Talk therapy is saying, this happened, I saw this, this is the ambulance that came, and this is when there was a 4-car pile up, and I was in a red car. So that's talk therapy. It's telling the story, it's building the relationship with your therapist, it's feeling safe enough to kind of talk about the scary thing or the emotional thing that happened. Trauma therapy is going to be decongesting the highway, having the ambulance move, cleaning up the glass. And those therapies,
opening up a lane.
Exactly. And
that you didn't know was there.
Yes. And those therapies are specific trauma therapies, and there are more than 2, but the 2 that we'll talk about today are EMDR and Brainspotting. And those are the 2 therapies that can help clear that out and help you. Now you have a lane that things are connecting now and it's not all backed up. So let's start with EMDR. I don't practice EMDR, but I've been a client in EMDR. So we'll start with that one. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So this is exactly what we're talking about. It helps process memories that are stuck in your body. So with EMDR, I'll kind of go through what my experience was like as a client and then kind of get into like the science behind it. For me, I went in to process some childhood trauma, and she used a light. So in EMDR, you are you're connecting the 2 hemipheres. So your left brain and your right brain.
Bilateral stimulation.
Yes. Stimulation? Bilateral stimulation.
What a...
Simulation.
Wow. I connected 2 words in one.
That's okay. Okay, so your left brain is kind of responsible for like logic, understanding, analyzing. So think like left brain is like your head. And then your right hemisphere is going to be more of like your intuition, your emotions, I would say like your heart or your body. So when you're stimulating both sides, you're able to process it fully as like a fully functioning human, as opposed to being fully in your head.
Sure.
Like we will a lot of times in trauma is we remove ourselves from our bodies because we're going through something traumatic. So you, like you said, dissociate or whatever, we kind of go fully into the left hemisphere, which is why things are stuck. A lot of times with bilateral stimulation, you could put on bilateral stimulation music. So I would put earphones in, and there's music that's kind of going both sides. And then your eyes are going both sides. So you're connecting those two hemispheres. And as you begin to talk about memories, you are able to not only talk about them like you would in talk therapy, but you're feeling and experiencing it physically. So you're decongesting the highway. And what's really cool that I notice about it is it doesn't feel as like triggering or scary, even as talk therapy might, because you're regulating as you're doing it. So it's a really like regulating experience. And people have had a lot of different things happen. Like for me, I remember just like crying, but not feeling like emotionally overwhelmed. And so you're not as like heightened or, like I said, dysregulated. So I mean, that's only one story and one experience, but I think the main point of it is that you're able to connect your logical mind and able to be present in like, this is what happened. And also the feeling and the physical body kind of working through it. So with the bilateral stimulation, so for me, like I said, I had the music and then I had the like, there's like a little red pointer. But other ways that I know people will do this is like tapping to kind of connect them, or like this. This is also like really regulating in general. Just like if you go through something that feels like really activating, just doing this can help you like your body calm down, which is crazy. So that is EMDR, and people kind of report like having less emotional charge, things that may have like sent them like going to a 4 to a 12, like that can lessen. Feeling calmer.
Just not living so activated all the time.
The next one's brainspotting, which both of us are trained in. Okay, so brainspotting is that whole idea is where you look affects how you feel. So brainspotting, I'll start off by asking my clients to first, like, kind of like, what do you want to talk about today? What's kind of causing stress in your life? But then we'll also find a point where it's calm. And so,
sorry, can I add something?
Yeah.
Brainspotting is super important because as talk therapy is so frontal lobe and using word and logic to process, brainspotting is almost the exact opposite. It's going deep within like the midbrain to the limbic system and finding the wounds in the limbic system, and essentially using a spot in your visual field to directly connect to that limbic system and start to patch that up. Okay, it sounds woo-woo, but there's been so many very impactful stories of people in brainspotting saying absolutely nothing and just looking at somewhere within their visual field that is activating something in their body and they can't explain it, and you don't have to explain it. So I think brainspotting can be very, very special for some people who have really trouble talking about what they've went through, or that don't exactly have the memory to talk about
like if it happened when you were really young, like pre-verbal,
and even speaking from my work of like sexual abuse, you often dissociate. And so it's your brain's way of protecting itself from the very scary images that have happened to you. And so brainspotting is a way to say, you don't have to remember. It is absolutely okay that you dissociated. And in fact, your brain was really trying to save you in that moment.
Thank God you dissociated.
And thank God you dissociated. Because how scary would that be to visually remember that? However, your body was there, your body lived it, and your body remembers. And so brainspotting is very impactful to not have the pressure to talk about it. And it's not to say don't talk about it, because people too in brain spotting and in my own personal brain spotting sessions, I bring up stuff that maybe I don't quite understand. And so it's helpful then to talk to my therapist afterwards. And she connected some things that maybe I couldn't connect in the moment because she was such a strong witness to my pain.
Yeah. No, that's such a good point. Yeah. Because thinking about like starting trauma therapy, like, oh, I have to like relive and have to go into all the details and tell my story.
Are
and
they going to believe me? Some pieces are missing.
Or even thinking about having to go back into those memories sometimes. You just don't want to.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I think it's a good point. Like emotionally, brain spotting may not even have it be that way. It's just somatic and it's clearing it out without even having to like do that. Doesn't mean you won't, but yeah, it's a good point.
Brain spotting sessions are just different because they might feel quieter. They might feel like not a lot is happening. And the really important part though is that the brain spotter, the therapist, is holding this container for you and being so attuned to your experience and just you and holding you that it feels very safe in that way, and that you are allowed to just be. You're allowed to not remember, and that's okay. You are allowed to cry, and that's okay. And so holding that container, as they say for them, and just being quietly checked in on and not like interrupted in your processing, I think is super. I just really like that about brain spotting. It just takes the pressure away from trying to tell this perfect story that makes sense. Because a lot of times when we recall our trauma, it doesn't make sense. Some pieces are missing. And then when we say it out loud, we often just like automatically shame or judge ourselves of, wait, it's really not that big of a deal when I talk about it, but it feels so heavy.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I know like talking about brain spotting, like the eye placement, like it can sound like really vague.
Sure.
Like I feel like even when I first heard about it, I'm like, wait, what is it? Like you're looking at a spot. But if you think about like when someone asks you a question, like I always give this example, like someone asks you a question you can't remember, you sometimes will go like, and it's almost like you look to this like file, like as you hold memories in like files in your mind, and where you look storing the memory. So you're like looking, I'm like, okay, I remember now.
Yeah. You know what? You need to watch SpongeBob, because there's an episode, it's like SpongeBob's brain. It's like, all right, we have another information coming in. And then it's like, where's the file? Where's the file? And like things are being blown up, but like it's like a file system.
In his head.
Anyways, SpongeBob is just so therapeutic.
So you need to keep, maybe I need to start SpongeBob. That's so funny.
I think all of this to say is that there's so much hope for building the resilience and building the resources to respond to this activation that trauma can cause, and know that working on your trauma is not necessarily erasing the memory.
Right.
You don't want to erase the memory and move on. It's being able to remember those things and not feel like you are right back at that very spot. It's to handle it. Yeah. And so
it's so that you can recall it in your head, but you don't have to recall it physically in your body and all of that. Did I succinct it? Is that a word? Did I summarize it for you?
Yeah, that was great. Because Mama's all
bring it all the way around.